Good morning. It is 8 o'clock. It is the 10th day of Jingle Jam Vlogmas December, and I am your Scrooge in training, the OGGM, with another OGGM venture. Another look at what I personally think is the third best Wizards of the Coast 5th edition adventure product. I believe most people think Ravenloft is the best, and it's hard to argue that their Ravenloft Strahd 5th edition conversion is pretty damn good. Writing-wise, story-wise. And I think most people think this one's the second best. Writing-wise, story-wise, adventure-wise, intrigue-wise, just every plus homage to the past-wise, this one's probably generally considered the second best. I've already mentioned that I think Tomb of Annihilation is the most D&D adventure 5th edition has made, and probably the most D&D adventure in a long time. But that's possibly the topic for another vlog. Anyways, continuing our exploration of this amazing story, past, present, future, one of the most mined for ideas adventures, because there's so many versions of this, not just the Wizards of the Coast versions of this, which I think there's 4, not just the Pazio versions of this, which I think there's 1, maybe 2, but there's third parties who have also done giant-themed adventures and giant-themed 2-parters, giant-themed 3-parters, tons of them out there, all sort of taking homage to G1, G2, G3 Against the Giants. Against the Giants is notable for a lot of things in the history of D&D. It's one of the first 3-part adventures. It's one of the first that was done as tournament. It's one of the first to explore the ideas of combining the origins, the miniature military aspects of D&D with the much more class-based role-playing, how are characters and how are players gonna confront this much more militaristic, strategic type of campaign where they're placed against really odds that, on paper they are outrageous against them. I mean, a first level character against a hill giant, that should be an unfair fight, but it's D&D. So there's lots of reasons. And one of the other reasons why this particular series of adventures is so iconic, so revisited, is because it is our first introduction to the Drow and our first real introduction into what would become the Underdark. And let's face it, there is few things more iconic in Dungeons and Dragons and in third parties than the Underdark, the world under, the world inside the world, the idea, that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle journey to, Lost World, the H.G. Wells journey to the center of the world, Jules Verne journey to the center of the world, that whole idea that there's another world out there filled with horrible, awful monsters, so G3, and then its predecessor, the one that came after it, the Into the Depths of the Earth, introduced us to the Drow, introduced us to the idea of this inner world, the Underdark, the many bizarre races of the Underdark. So, truly iconic. Now, the Drow were never meant to be what they have become. They were a throwaway race, like the Pecks or the Lava Children, or the Catalopus, or just, let's introduce a new bad guy race. What's the worst thing I can possibly think of? Evil, underground-dwelling, chaotic, black-skinned elves. Yes, we know the one ongoing argument about the Drow is, why are they black-skinned? Because we know that anything that lives underground for a long period of time loses all skin pigmentation and becomes basically white, and usually goes blind because they don't need their eyesight and develops other senses. So a dark-skinned elf race. But then they explained it as, magical radiation from the Underdark is why their skin is black, as opposed to every other thing that lives underground whose skin is, albino white, because no sun, no pigmentation. So that was the kernel of what is the worst thing we can possibly think of But it was supposed to be a throwaway. I mean, like Lava Children. Now, let me just say, as far as I know from the research I have done, so I am 80% sure this is the truth, but I could be wrong. But if you look at the layout of the adventures, it does sort of make sense. So, from what my research has shown me, from what I believe to be true, I could be wrong. This is just what I've discovered and looked at, but maybe I'm not correct. Gygax never intended the Drow to be what they were. They were supposed to be a throwaway. The way it was written, at least in his mind, and if you look at the layout, it sort of makes sense. It was supposed to be Village of Hamlet first. Then Temple of Elemental Evil, one of the first mega dungeons ever, would be the second adventure. At the end of Temple of Elemental Evil, he figured characters would be 6th, 7th level, which would take them into the Slave Lords series, the Against the Slave Lords, Survive the Slave Lords, Escape the Slave Lords, which would take them out of the comfort zone of both medieval, foresty type to a more, Middle Eastern, deserty type campaign, and place them in a situation where they have no stuff, which, back in first edition and still today, taking away a player character's stuff is like the worst sin a DM could do. Where's my magic items? Where's my armor? Where's my spoon? I assure you, if you place any group of characters and players in a situation where they are in a cell and have lost all their stuff, 99% chance every single one of them, the first thing they will do is, where's my stuff? And they will go to God's ends of the earth to retrieve their crap. Even though as a DM in your head, you're going to get stuff. Just go through the damn adventure. You're probably going to end up with better stuff than you had to begin with. But I need my spoon. And then at the end of Slave Lords, they would have been about 11th level, 8th to 11th level. And Slave Lords was supposed to lead into the Giants series. Hill Giants, Frost Giants, Stone Giants, Fire Giants. Back then, the Cloud Giants and the Storm Giants weren't really a part of it. It was supposed to end with the Fire Giants. Or was it the Ice Giants? I think it was supposed to end with the Fire Giants. I don't know. I have to look at it again real quick. Actually, we could look right here. By going to the table of contents. So, yeah. It looks like it was supposed to end with the Fire Giants. So, because the Storm and the Cloud didn't really play in the beginning. And then it was supposed to introduce the Drow, but also introduce the fact that the real bad guys of this series, from Village of Hamlet to the Fire Giants and the hints of the Underdark, which with D1 and D2, the real bad guys were the bad guys that we'd already seen, the Temple of Elemental Evil bad guys, the evil elemental princes, the princes of the apocalypse. They were supposed to be the bad guys, and then it was supposed to circle all around, and there would have to return to Temple Elemental Evil, but a much more deeper, darker, underground, evil-y, what the fuck is that? Version of it's my glasses, I think. Temple of Elemental Evil. And that's how it was going to end. So it was a whole cycle that Gygax had in his mind. Now, obviously, that didn't happen because Drow became the thing. And they became way more popular than anybody intended. And plus, once you started seeing the porn art of the 1980 Drow, it was just, inevitable that TSR, Wizards of the Coast, needed something that would sell their product. And nothing sells like boobs. So they pushed the Drow. And then Salvatore introduced us to Drizzt, and they took the Underdark and ran with it, and then just the nail in the coffin was it. I mean, that was going to be the thing that they were going to push to sell their product for a while, because boobs and goth and leather and all the things that the Drow just appeal to. And do you see this fuzz, or is it just on my side? It's probably just on my side. I'm probably just losing my mind. But originally it was supposed to cycle back to the evil elemental lords, princes of the apocalypse. So, yeah. That's it. Now, I don't think we do that in this one. I think it just stays pretty much giant themed. It does suggest that there's tie-ins to the Princes of the Apocalypse module series. in this, but really, we've got a cloud giant on a flying castle, raining down, doom from above, trying to take over the world, blah-de-blah-de-blah, because what's cooler than a flying castle storm giant thing? And then the player characters suddenly have control of a flying castle storm giant weapon of mass destruction thing. So blah. So there's a little history for you for against the giants. Now, again, I don't know how true this is. It feels like it's true. What I've read makes me believe it's true. If you look at the layout from Village of Hamlet to the Slave Lords, one of the great forgotten adventures with TSR days, to the giants, to Death of the Earths, and you take out the Drow, who are just supposed to be a side chapter, and you go, well, whatever happened to these elemental lords from Temple of Elemental Evil? And this all sort of has an elemental feel to it: earth, air, fire, water giants. And now we're going into this primordial Underdark filled with, chaotic, primordial, ancient forces. So making the big bad guys again the evil elemental lords, kind of cool. Yeah, that makes way more sense than suddenly out of nowhere these Machiavellian evil elves that really make no sense whatsoever are secretly the bad guys. But they became bad guys for a long time, but then everybody fell in love with them. And then the Drow sort of became these, misunderstood. Well, we're not really bad. We're just emo and misunderstood. And, we want to get back to the surface and walk around and be like Drizzt. And all our females look like porn stars until recently. So, yeah. Oh, trigger warning. I do mention the word porn star and boobs in this video. So there you go. Hopefully I have enlightened you in some way on this Thursday morning. I appreciate you watching. If you want to see more content like this and help me solve the mystery of why everything on my screen looks fuzzy, please comment down below. If you think I should shut the fuck up and never do this again, comment down below. And if you're planning on unsubscribing, let me know why, because I can't fix it if you don't tell me what's broken. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe yet, please take a moment to subscribe. It helps you know what's going on with the OGGM adventures, and it helps me know what direction you want to take the vlog in 2021. Still hoping to hit 250 by the end of the year. Don't think it's going to happen, but I gotta have dreams. I'll talk to you giants later.